Hey, what's up, dudes? Oh, wait, hold on. Can't forget that. I got a special guest over today. Say hello to my buddy John. He brought over his totally awesome bass, and we thought we'd shoot the breeze a little bit.
My vintage bass.
Your vintage, I know, it's vintage now. I know. Like we were joking earlier, I said, it's not vintage unless it was made before I was born, but that's getting longer and longer ago. So,
lots of vintage instruments.
Exactly, lots of vintage instruments that are made in the late 80s, apparently. So, say hello to John.
Hey, guys.
And why don't you talk about your bass here? Because I love the totally awesome neck on this thing.
Yeah, the neck is it's an aerospace carbon fiber, according to a good friend of mine, Steve.
Wow.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'm gonna see if I can turn it around here a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. See
you'll
if you can show it off there.
Yeah,
Yeah. The flake, the graphite, right?
The graphite, yeah. And the only reason I got it was because back in the day when they were advertising these, they said you could pull the neck off and the body and put it in a bag and take it on the plane, and then put your bass back together again at your destination, and it'll be intonated and everything will be in order. So it was a low maintenance bass for me. I had a serious problem with the weather here, right?
Right.
So the weather changing and the necks moving. And
Right. I don't see a truss rod plate.
nope, no truss rod in it.
No truss rod in it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So seriously low maintenance for me. Not that I was on a plane all the time, but I didn't have to worry about, the curve of the neck and bowing or anything like that.
And how long ago did you buy the bass?
91.
91. So 22 years ago.
Yeah, 22 years.
Which is just frightening.
It is to buy it new 22 years ago.
And it's got a looks to me like a nice flame maple cap.
Yep, that's right. Flame maple top. The nut's interesting too. It's Graphite, which is it's harder than bone, but not as hard as brass.
Right.
So it's not as brassy, but it does have some nice resonance, and you get some nice harmonics out of it. It's good.
And I'm counting 5 strings, low B.
Yep, low B.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Nice.
Single
nice.
tone. Single volume, single tone here. Actually, this is a pickup blend, and then you have your active stuff right here, which if it's in the middle, I need to cap that again. If it's in the middle, it's not. Yeah.
You're right. Stock pickups?
Yeah, stock EMGs.
EMGs, okay.
These are EMGs, yeah. The soap bar, and it's a PJ setup, though you can't tell from looking at them.
Right.
Shayla
Right.
Bridge.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And Goto tuners. So these were
Little pick guard?
Yes, the customization that saved my bass. I had a friend of mine, Greg from the store, had a guy who knew a guy, and this guy was a plastics tooler, what do you call him, manufacturer. He cut custom parts.
Right.
And I was used to playing a Fender jazz bass, so when I slap, my fingers on the jazz bass naturally hit the string in a certain spot. And what was happening with this bass was they were getting caught underneath. So I was
too far of a...
Yeah, that's right, correct.
Right.
So we measured it and had this guy, never saw him again, really nice, genius guy with plastic. And I drew this for him, and he cut it and screwed it in. And one day, probably in the mid-90s, in a fit of insanity, I tried to sell the bass because I had several of them in the arsenal. And I went downtown, I remember it was near the college, and a guy came to meet me, and he saw the bass, and he said, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "Oh, it's a little plastic pickguard I put on." He's like, "I don't want it." He wanted to hang it on the wall. He didn't want to play it.
Right.
So, and I'm very grateful.
You ruined the vintage.
Yeah. It's not stock. It's terribly defaced now. So
when you say it's PJ, can you get a nice fingered tone? Why don't you go through and we'll check out some of the tones?
Sure.
On it.
Let's see where we are here. So right in the middle, right? So that's probably my basic tone.
Right.
And if you want to get more of the bridge pickup, you could just dial it here in the
I got you.
Right. And if I was going to slap or anything like that, I would dial it back a little bit toward the front, get a little fatter. Right. So that's. Oh, you know, we're talking about different ways of playing an instrument. We were talking about it earlier, and depending on what the song was, if you play top 40 or you're in a rock band and you play covers, you kind of have to try to you know, copy the tune and get the tone. You just try to cut. You never quite cut it, but but there are different ways of doing it. And playing on the neck will give you a round tone.
Right.
You try to get a fat sound there. Maybe mute, like I hear you doing a lot of muting and.
Right.
That kind of thing. So
Right.
I carry a fingernail around with me if I can. I need my my index and my thumb.
Right.
So that's,
Right.
the thumb is good for slapping when you have it, and
Nice little triplet there. Triplet.
yeah,
Nice.
right. So when you're watching a movie that's horrible and you're biting your nails because you lose it, oh no, I gotta take tomorrow.
Exactly. Where's my Lee press-on nails?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. And I think you, if you could just show us some of your techniques. I know you've got a couple of like slap techniques that are pretty interesting. I know you do one thing where you sort of put your two fingers in like a little cascading shelf here.
Oh yeah.
So
like
you get
like a drum flam.
Yeah, like a flam.
Back in the 80s, there was a guy, his name was Kai Eckhart, you can still find him online. But he had this bass part that I spent weeks trying to learn. It drove me nuts. What is he doing? And and it took me a long time to get it, but once you, I'm sure with the guitar, you try a technique, you can't get it, and you sort of sleep on it for a couple, and then you wake up the next day and all of a sudden, oh, it's there. Like I can, because you can feel it, and it's kind of like I used to tell folks, you take your index finger and you put your middle finger on top of the index.
Okay.
So they roll and they walk.
Right.
And you get that.
Right.
I mean, everybody does it now.
Right. Well, you're lucky with the bass in the sense that bass players rarely change their tunings. It's almost always, you know, like 99% of the times.
Oh, there's some freaks out there, but yeah,
you know,
you're right.
But I can't tell you how many times I'd be trying to learn a song. I'm like, this is impossible to play, and then you find out they're completely alternate tuning, and it's, you know, it's like literally one finger up and down with a couple of open strings. I'm like, oh,
yeah, they're playing like this, and it's totally like
exactly. Well, they're hitting these harmonics, and I'm like, how are they getting those? What kind of chord are they holding? And they're like hitting these upper harmonics, and they're really not doing that at all.
Nothing.
It's just, you know, the standard open string harmonics, but the guitar has been tuned out, and I'm like, oh, no wonder.
And live, you see this hand come from off stage with a guitar, you know, and it's
right.
Give me the other one for the next
exactly,
one.
Exactly. You know, they're switching them on.
Luxury, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, well, you know, you want to do a little playing? We can maybe just hear the bass at first, and then maybe we can do a little jam on the jamming. I know you do like a harmonics thing that I heard you doing earlier that sounded really good.
Yeah, so I would pull back on the tone and get a little more of the bridge, so it's a little brighter.
Right.
And you could play with the notes until you can find them. Jocko had a famous tune, and but you can get some really nice sounds, and they don't cut a lot. It's probably best for solo bass or some sensitive track,
Right.
because they don't cut unless you dabble in the mix. But usually with the rock guitar going, you can't really hear them. But they're pretty. I like them.
And then I know when you were trying out my cheapo Ibanez bass, of course, I can't figure out the knobs at all. And John comes over and he's like, "Oh yeah, well this is just knob, and this is your switch knob, and this is your active name. This is obviously a treble and a bass." I'm like, "How do you know?" But basses, you know, they're wired so differently from guitars. It's amazing. You'd think it's going to be like a volume tone or a volume tone, and it's
I don't know how you guys deal with that. You've got one pickup with 20 sounds in that one.
right. Yeah.
So,
But I remember you going through and going like, "Oh yeah, well here's your slap sound, and here's your fingered sound, and here's like your tight sort of Jocko sound," and I was like, "Okay."
Well, 3 sounds is easy to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, really. No, that sounds awesome. So, you're not playing bass professionally anymore.
No.
You haven't done that in a while.
No, in fact, thank you for dusting me off so I can. You inspired me to like practice again and get back into it. Play.
You doing the artworks,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? You've been doing that for a long time now, about 10 years.
Yeah.
Since you've been working as a bass player, you've been doing the artwork instead, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So illustration and mostly storyboards now.
Right. Anything my audience might know about?
Maybe some packaging at Toys R Us. I did some. So if you see a truck jumping off a cliff,
right.
It's a cartoony truck that's painted. Yeah.
And you've done some storyboard work?
Yeah, well, mostly television commercials for Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
I did the first one I ever did was a vanilla bean colada with Nomar Garcia Parra, if you remember him.
Oh yeah.
That was the first one, and then I
Nomar,
and a Tom Brady steak sandwich when Gillette first opened.
I remember that one. I remember the commercial.
Yeah, the old guy eating.
The old guy eating steak sandwich.
Yeah,
right. He Brady trades him the Dunkin' Donuts steak sandwich, and he goes out and plays quarterback.
Yeah,
right?
he gives his jersey up.
Gives his jersey up for the thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And now all this.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, we have a little drum track here we can sort of fool around with.
Okay.
This is just a pre-canned, like, little repeating track, and we haven't really rehearsed anything other than trying to get levels and trying to figure out. I'm using the Anger amp still because it was the one that was left over from the last video, and I just haven't changed the patch out yet. So I'm still working off the Angry amp, which is the Engel. I think I called it the Fireball, which there is an amp, the Fireball, but it's actually based on the Powerball. And someone raised it to me. They were like, "That's actually the Powerball," and I was like, "Really? I could have sworn someone else wrote in a thing it's based on the Fireball." Of course, I look up the amp. It looks nothing like the Fireball amp. It looks exactly like the Powerball amp. I was like, "You're always one step ahead." So, let's see here. This is a little repeating track here, and get ready for a little bit of hip-hoppity, funkity-doo.
Yeah.
Well, that's about enough of that. It actually sounded pretty good.
Well, we'll find out.
It sounded a million times better than we were trying to get those levels together.
Yeah.
So that's about it, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, bro.
Yeah.
So just so people know how long we've known each other.
Vintage.
I'm pretty sure it now turning 2013. We've known each other for 31 years.
I don't even want to do the math. Yeah, probably.
I think that's about right. Probably met in 82 when you were playing with Cozy, God rest his soul.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And the barn bands, all the barn bands.
We would play in a barn in the winter with the windows open, with like icicles hanging off the amps. Yep.
I'm
just
sure
for the
it's long
love,
gone,
man.
but we had video footage of us, and you could just see our
Yep.
breath coming out. It's just like so friggin' cold.
Gloves
up
with
there.
the holes in
Yeah,
them.
gloves with the holes in them.
Guitar staying in tune, not.
Like, I'm sure this is the way Zeppelin started out. You know,
Must have been, right?
Exactly. Just horrible. And then.
Oh, but what fun though! I live for it, you know.
Yeah, and then
we get out of school because we learned that Aerosmith tune,
and then we worked together at the music store.
Yeah.
We worked at the music store for I was there 9, almost 10 years.
I'd say about 10 years. I think you had left at one point, and I was still there for a little while.
Yeah, that could have been true. That could have been true because I had moved up to Woburn.
Yes.
And I was driving down for like one day a week. You know, I was working part-time. I was down to like one day a week. And finally, right before inventory, like literally the week before inventory, where it's like the worst time of the year, we would have to go through and count every pick, count every string, and they would do this massive inventory. And like the week before inventory, I was like, I'm out. And
Good timing.
They're like, what? They're like, you're quitting just because it's inventory. I'm like, no. And I got a job working, I think for Jimbo Sokolov. The lawyer, the phone lawyer.
That's
and I was answering phones all day. Let me tell you, that was an interesting job.
Yeah, and then we worked together on the paper when you were,
oh, that's right.
That's when I first.
Yeah.
Which I have an original for you. I have to get that to you.
Oh, that's right. You did some
one.
cartooning work for the newspaper. That's right. Wow. God.
That's where it started.
You know what that means? We're old.
Yeah.
All right, guys. As always, rock on.